no one can make you angry without your permission. That statement alone has the power to change how you live your life, because it shifts responsibility from the outside world to the only place where real control exists, within you. Think for a moment about the last time you got angry. Maybe someone insulted you, maybe someone dismissed your effort, maybe someone criticized you unfairly. The words and actions of others came like sparks, and instead of staying calm, you handed them the lighter fluid by reacting with anger. In that moment, without realizing it, you surrendered your peace of mind to someone else. You allowed them to dictate your state of being. But what if you didn't? What if the sparks never turned into flames because you refused to feed them? That is what it means to own your reaction. Every human being has triggers. We have been conditioned to believe that certain situations automatically deserve an emotional response. If someone shouts, you shout back. If someone disrespects you, you feel insulted. If someone challenges you, you feel the need to defend yourself. But that conditioning is not truth. That conditioning is weakness. Real strength is found in the ability to stand in the middle of provocation and remain unshaken. When you can look at someone's attempt to disturb you and simply choose not to participate, you rise to a level of power most people never reach. The mistake people make is assuming that peace is about controlling others. They think if people stop being rude, I will stop being angry. If people stop criticizing me, I will feel confident. If people stop hurting me, I will feel safe. But life does not work like that. You cannot control the mouths of others, you cannot rewrite their behavior, and you cannot live in a world where everyone respects your emotions. The only control you will ever truly have is over how you respond. That is why your reaction is your greatest power. Consider this. The same words spoken to two different people can create two completely different outcomes. Tell one person an insult, and they explode with rage, ready to argue, ready to fight, ready to burn every bridge around them. Tell another person the exact same words, and they simply smile, shake their head, and walk away. The insult did not change. The words did not soften. What changed was the reaction. The first person lost control. The second person stayed free. This shows us a truth we often ignore. It is never the situation, but always the interpretation. And if it is interpretation, then you hold the authority. You decide if those words deserve your energy. You decide if the disrespect deserves your attention. You decide whether to hand over your peace or keep it. The irony is that most people who try to provoke you are searching for a reaction. They thrive on seeing you lose control. They measure their power by your anger. The moment you erupt, they know they have succeeded in controlling you. But when you refuse to respond, when you choose silence over shouting and calmness over chaos, you strip them of that power. They cannot win because you have not entered the game. It takes far more strength to walk away than to explode, and it takes far more wisdom to stay silent than to argue. Think about anger as a fire. The moment you allow yourself to get angry, the fire consumes you first before it ever touches the other person. Your body feels it. Your heart races, your blood pressure rises, your mind becomes clouded, your judgment weakens. In anger, people say words they cannot take back. They make decisions that destroy relationships. They damage their health, and they lose opportunities. The fire of anger burns everything in its path, and almost always you are the one who suffers the most. But if you can step back and refuse to fuel that fire, the sparks die on their own. You walk away unburned, unhurt, and still in possession of your clarity. That is why learning to control your reaction is not just a matter of peace. It is a matter of survival and growth. One of the greatest illusions of life is that reacting quickly makes us strong. People think raising their voice, clapping back at insults, or showing aggression is a sign of dominance, but the opposite is true. Quick reactions show a lack of discipline. They reveal that anyone can control you by pressing the right button. True dominance is calmness. True authority is being unbothered. The person who cannot be provoked is the one who is truly in control. Let's take an example. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your immediate impulse is anger, shouting, honking, chasing. But what does that reaction bring? More stress, more risk, more wasted energy. You ruin your own mood because of a stranger you may never see again. That person goes on with their life, unaffected, while you carry the poison of anger for hours. Now imagine the same situation, but instead of reacting, you take a deep breath and let it go. Within seconds, it is over. You preserved your peace, your focus, your energy. The difference is not in the event. The difference is in your reaction. That is the choice you face every single day. When you practice control over your reactions, you begin to unlock a freedom most people never experience. Suddenly, gossip no longer hurts you, criticism no longer defines you, insults no longer wound you. You become untouchable, not because the world has changed, but because you have changed. You rise above petty battles, and you realize that most of the things people argue about are not even worth the breath it takes to respond. Every time you choose silence instead of shouting, calm instead of anger, you invest in your own growth. Of course, this does not mean you suppress emotions. Suppression is different from control. Suppression is pushing anger deep down, pretending it doesn't exist, while it quietly eats away at you. Control, on the other hand, is acknowledgement without surrender. It is noticing the rising wave of anger but choosing not to ride it. It is saying, yes, I feel this, but I will not let it control me. That is maturity, that is power. The journey toward mastering your reaction begins with awareness. The first step is noticing the trigger before it becomes an explosion. Most people only realize they are angry after they have already shouted, after they have already reacted. But with practice, you can train yourself to catch the emotion at its birth. You can feel the first spark, and instead of throwing fuel, you can take a pause. That pause is where your freedom lies. That pause is the space between being a slave to your emotions and being the master of them. In that pause, you have choices. You can breathe, you can reflect, you can even choose to walk away. Sometimes the greatest response is no response at all. People will expect you to fight back, they will expect you to argue, they will expect you to fall into the same patterns everyone else does. But when you respond differently, when you respond with calmness, you stand out. You show strength that cannot be imitated. Think of the greatest leaders, the most respected individuals throughout history. They were not the ones who lost their temper easily. They were not the ones who allowed small provocations to shake them. They were calm in the face of chaos, composed in the face of conflict, and steady when everyone else was falling apart. That is why they commanded respect, because they commanded themselves. If you want to rise to greatness, you must first rise above anger. The mind becomes clear when it is calm. Anger clouds vision, calmness sharpens it. In calmness, you see solutions instead of problems, opportunities instead of obstacles, lessons instead of insults. By controlling your reaction, you gain access to a higher level of intelligence that anger always blocks. Anger makes you impulsive, but calmness makes you wise. Remember, every situation is neutral until you add your reaction. Words are just sounds, actions are just movements. It is your interpretation that gives them meaning. If someone calls you a name, it only hurts if you agree with it. If you know your worth, their words bounce off you like stones against steel. But if you doubt yourself, even a whisper can shatter your peace. This is why mastering your reaction is deeply connected to mastering your self-belief. When you know who you are, you do not need the world's validation, and when you no longer need validation, you no longer get angry when people withhold it. Your reaction is your signature. It tells the world what kind of person you are. When you explode easily, people see weakness, they see instability, they see someone who cannot be trusted with responsibility. But when you remain calm under pressure, people see strength, they see stability, they see leadership. Your reaction shapes how the world perceives you, and more importantly, how you perceive yourself. This is not an easy path. Controlling your reaction is one of the hardest disciplines you will ever practice. There will be days when you fail, days when anger wins, days when irritation takes over. But every time you succeed, even in the smallest way, you are training your mind for greatness. Over time, it becomes natural. You start to notice that the things that once bothered you no longer touch you. The words that once pierced you now sound like noise. The situations that once ruined your mood now pass like clouds in the sky. This is freedom, this is strength, and in that strength, you discover a new kind of happiness. A happiness not dependent on others, not at the mercy of circumstances, but rooted in your own self-control. Because when you no longer give others the power to control your emotions, you become the true master of your life. And the greatest victory you will ever achieve is victory over yourself. Imagine being so calm that no insult, no criticism, no negativity could touch you. Picture a state of being where the storms of the outside world rage on, yet within you there is unshakable peace. That is what it means to build an inner shield. The world will not stop testing you. People will not stop speaking against you, and challenges will not stop appearing in your path. But when you have developed strength so firm that none of it can penetrate, you step into a freedom that few ever experience. Negativity surrounds us everywhere. It comes through the words of others, through disappointments, through betrayals, through moments where things do not go as planned. Most people live like open doors, letting every negative force walk in and take residence in their minds. An insult sits heavy in their heart all day. A minor criticism keeps them awake at night. A moment of rejection convinces them they are unworthy. They are like castles without walls, vulnerable to every attack. But life demands that you build your fortress, not of stone, but of mindset. When you build that fortress, you become untouchable. People may throw stones, but none will ever strike you where it matters. To build an inner shield, the first thing to realize is that people's words and actions reflect them, not you. Every insult, every negative comment, every moment of disrespect says more about the person delivering it than the person receiving it. If someone is filled with bitterness, they will spill bitterness on others. If someone is insecure, they will try to pull others down to feel taller. If someone is lost, they will mock those who walk with purpose. But none of that belongs to you unless you choose to carry it. The shield begins when you refuse to take ownership of someone else's poison. Let them spill it, let them throw it, but let it bounce off the wall of your self-belief. The greatest mistake we make is personalizing everything. A person criticizes us, and we think it is the truth. A stranger disrespects us, and we let it define our worth. A friend betrays us, and we let it ruin our trust forever. But not everything that is thrown at you is meant for you. When someone hurls negativity, pause and ask yourself, do I really need to let this in? Most of the time, the answer is no. The shield is the decision to reject what does not serve you. Building this shield is not about arrogance. It is not about pretending you are above everyone else. It is about understanding that protecting your peace is not selfish, it is necessary. Just as you protect your body from harmful substances, you must protect your mind from harmful influences. If someone offered you a cup of poison, you would not drink it. So why drink the poison of their words? Why allow it to flow into your system and damage your spirit? The shield is the refusal to consume what you know will harm you. The shield is also built with self-knowledge. When you know who you are, insults lose their power. If someone calls you weak, but you know your strength, you do not bend. If someone calls you worthless, but you know your value, you do not fall. If someone mocks your path, but you know your purpose, you do not turn back. The reason criticism stings is not because of what is said, but because of what we secretly fear may be true. But when you are rooted in self-awareness, there is no space for those fears to grow. The shield is strengthened every time you affirm your own truth over the noise of others. Think of a warrior in battle. They may face arrows, but their shield protects them. Without the shield, every arrow wounds. With the shield, the arrows may fly, but they never reach the heart. Life is no different. Every day, arrows are flying. Some are sharp words, some are unfair judgments, some are disappointments that come uninvited. Without a shield, you absorb every strike until you are covered in scars. With a shield, you may hear the arrows, you may feel the impact, but you remain untouched at your core. That is the strength you must cultivate. One of the most powerful ways to strengthen this shield is through detachment. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop giving unnecessary weight to things outside your control. If someone misunderstands you, let them. If someone underestimates you, let them. If someone misrepresents you, let them. You are not here to control the opinions of every individual. You are here to walk your path. Detachment allows you to keep moving without carrying the baggage of everyone's perspective. It is not coldness, it is clarity. This shield is also reinforced by perspective. When something bothers you, step back and ask, will this matter in 5 years? Will this even matter in 5 months? More often than not, the answer is no. But we let the smallest of things steal the largest part of our peace. A comment from a stranger, a single act of disrespect, a small rejection. These things dominate our minds far longer than they deserve. Perspective reminds us that most arrows are too small to even notice. The shield becomes stronger when you stop magnifying the trivial. Another layer of the shield comes from compassion. When you realize that people who hurt others are often hurting themselves, their actions no longer cut as deep. The angry person is usually battling inner pain. The jealous person is usually feeling insecure. The cruel person is often carrying wounds you cannot see. When you respond with compassion instead of anger, you disarm the attack. You realize their negativity is not about you, it is about them, and when you see it that way, you no longer take it personally. The arrow is no longer aimed at your heart. To truly build an unshakable shield, discipline is required. The mind is like a muscle, and just like the body, it must be trained. Every time you resist reacting to negativity, you strengthen the shield. Every time you choose calmness over chaos, you add another layer. Every time you walk away instead of engaging in battles that don't matter, you polish the armor that protects you. Discipline is not built overnight, but with consistency, it becomes who you are. One day, you look back and realize that the things that once shattered you now barely touch you. That is the result of building, brick by brick, the shield of inner strength. There will always be those who try to test your peace. They will poke, they will push, they will provoke. They will see your calmness as weakness. Not realizing it is the highest form of strength. Do not let their misunderstanding distract you. You are not living to prove your worth to those who cannot see it. You are living to guard your energy for what truly matters. And every time you let go of a meaningless battle, you preserve that energy for growth, for creation, for dreams larger than any insult thrown at you. An unshakable shield does not mean you stop feeling. You will still notice the words, you will still feel the sting for a moment, but feelings are like waves, they rise and fall. The shield ensures they do not drown you. It gives you the ability to let the wave pass without pulling you under. That is what true calmness feels like. You may sense the storm, but you are no longer swept away by it. Remember, no one has the power to disturb your peace unless you hand it to them. Every time you get upset, you have chosen to give your power away. But when you raise your shield, you keep that power. You decide who enters your space and who does not. You decide which words matter and which words do not. You decide what reaches your heart and what bounces off the walls of your self-control. That decision, made over and over again, is what transforms your life. And when you live behind the shield of calmness, people notice. They will wonder why you are not shaken by what shakes others. They will wonder how you remain steady when everyone else is falling apart. They will test you, but eventually they will respect you, because deep down, everyone wishes they had that kind of strength. The world respects the person who cannot be broken, not by insults, not by criticism, not by chaos. The world respects the one who builds an inner shield so strong that nothing from the outside can ever take away their peace. Every time you get angry, you lose energy. Every time you stay calm, you gain power. This is not just a saying, it is a reality that plays out in your daily life. Anger is one of the most draining emotions you can carry. It consumes your thoughts, it clouds your judgment, it steals your focus, and it leaves you feeling exhausted long after the moment has passed. But calmness, patience, and composure do the opposite. They fuel you, they sharpen your mind, they allow you to stay steady in the middle of chaos, and they give you the ability to turn challenges into opportunities. The difference between the two is the difference between wasting your life force and using it to build a stronger version of yourself. Anger pretends to be strength, but in reality, it is weakness disguised. It fools you into believing that shouting louder, reacting quicker, or striking back harder makes you powerful. But think carefully. How many times has anger led you to say something you later regretted? How many times has anger caused you to make a decision that damaged a relationship or ruined an opportunity? How many times has anger left you drained while the person who triggered you went on with their life unaffected? Anger doesn't protect you, it punishes you. It doesn't elevate you, it lowers you to a level you do not belong. The real strength is in the ability to take that fiery energy and redirect it into growth. When anger arises, it is usually pointing towards something deeper. Perhaps it is revealing a wound inside of you that needs healing. Perhaps it is showing you a weakness that needs strengthening. Perhaps it is exposing a fear that you have not yet confronted. In this way, anger can be a teacher, but only if you stop reacting blindly and start listening closely. The moment you feel that fire rising within you, instead of exploding outward, pause and ask yourself, what is this teaching me about myself? That question turns anger from an enemy into an ally. Consider the energy of anger. When you are angry, you feel a rush of heat, a surge of adrenaline, a spike of intensity. That energy is not bad in itself, it is neutral. What matters is how you use it. Most people use it destructively, yelling, arguing, breaking, hurting, burning bridges. But if you learn to channel it, that same energy can push you toward incredible achievements. The fuel that once destroyed relationships can now fuel your discipline in the gym, your commitment to your goals, your drive to prove yourself through actions instead of arguments. The energy of anger is powerful, but only if you master it instead of letting it master you. Think about how many great inventions, movements, and successes have been born from frustration. People who were angry at injustice channeled it into creating change. People who were angry at being underestimated channeled it into proving their worth through excellence. People who were angry at their own circumstances used it as the spark to transform their lives. They did not waste their energy screaming at the world. They used it to rebuild their world. That is what it means to transform anger into growth. To do this, you must first learn to pause. The pause is the bridge between destruction and transformation. In the heat of anger, the natural impulse is to react instantly. That is when mistakes are made. But if you can discipline yourself to pause, even for a few seconds, you create space between stimulus and response. In that space, you can choose not to be controlled by emotion. In that space, you can redirect. In that space, you can ask yourself, how can I use this? That single pause could be the difference between a fight that ruins your day and a realization that improves your life. The second step is reframing. Instead of seeing anger as purely negative, see it as a signal. Anger signals that something needs to change. If you are constantly angry at your environment, maybe it is a sign you need to grow beyond it. If you are angry at people doubting you, maybe it is a sign to stop relying on their validation. If you are angry at repeated failures, maybe it is a sign you need to adjust your strategy, not your self-worth. Reframing allows you to look at the same situation differently. Instead of saying, "This made me angry," you begin to say, "This showed me where I need to grow." The third step is transmutation. Transmutation is the art of taking one form of energy and turning it into another. Anger is raw, untamed energy. Transmutation is choosing to take that energy and fuel your progress. For example, instead of arguing with someone who disrespected you, you could take that energy to focus harder on your goals, proving them wrong through success rather than words. Instead of wasting energy on resentment, you could channel it into working out, building discipline, strengthening your body and mind. Instead of letting rejection make you bitter, you could let it make you better, working on yourself so much that no rejection can ever break you again. Every time you redirect anger toward growth, you become stronger. People often fear anger because they associate it only with destruction. But the truth is, anger, like fire, can either burn your house down or cook your meal. It all depends on how you use it. Fire in the wrong place is dangerous. Fire in the right place is essential. The same is true for anger. If you let it consume you, it destroys. If you direct it with intention, it builds. Another way to transform anger into growth is to use it as a mirror. Ask yourself why the situation bothers you so much. Often, what angers us most is what touches our deepest insecurities. If criticism makes you angry, perhaps it is because you fear you are not good enough. If disrespect makes you angry, perhaps it is because you still doubt your own worth. If failure makes you angry, perhaps it is because you have attached your identity to outcomes. The mirror of anger shows you where you still need to grow internally. And the sooner you address those insecurities, the less power they will have over you. It is important to remember that transformation does not happen overnight. Controlling anger is one of the hardest skills to develop. There will be times when you slip, when you react in ways you wish you hadn't. But every time you succeed, every time you turn that fire into fuel, you are rewiring your brain, you are retraining your habits, you are building the muscle of self-mastery. And the more you practice, the stronger that muscle becomes. There is also a freedom that comes when you no longer waste energy on anger. Think about how much time people spend replaying arguments in their minds, holding grudges for years, carrying bitterness toward people who have long forgotten about them. This is wasted life. It is like carrying around bags of rocks everywhere you go, getting heavier and heavier, slowing you down more and more. But when you learn to release anger, when you learn to redirect it, you drop the rocks. You feel lighter, you move faster, you have more energy for what actually matters. Your growth, your goals, your peace. Calmness does not mean weakness. Calmness is not about letting people walk all over you. Calmness is choosing to fight battles that are worth your time, not every meaningless skirmish that comes your way. Calmness is the decision to protect your energy because you know your energy is too valuable to waste on trivial things. Calmness is the ultimate power because it shows that you control yourself, and when you control yourself, Nothing outside can control you. Transforming anger into growth also requires vision. When you have a clear sense of purpose, small provocations lose their grip on you. You realize that shouting back, holding grudges, or seeking revenge are all distractions from your bigger mission. You cannot build a future if you are stuck reliving the past. You cannot climb the mountain if you are busy throwing stones at every dog that barks. Vision gives you direction, and direction makes you selective with your energy. You begin to ask, does this reaction take me closer to my goals or further away? If it takes you further away, you let it go. That is transformation. Some of the most successful people in history were those who learned to turn their anger into fuel. They faced rejection, failure, and doubt, but instead of being crushed, they became sharper. They didn't waste energy trying to change other people's opinions. They used that energy to change their own reality. They understood that revenge through anger is temporary, but revenge through success is permanent. And so they transformed their anger into focus, into resilience, into action. That is why they left behind legacies instead of regrets. You too have that choice every single day. Life will always give you reasons to be angry. People will disappoint you, circumstances will frustrate you, failure will knock on your door more than once, but you decide what to do with the fire. You can let it burn you, or you can let it forge you. You can let it destroy, or you can let it build. You can waste it, or you can use it. And when you choose to use it, when you choose to transform anger into growth, you discover a strength you never knew you had. You stop being a prisoner to your emotions and start being the master of them. You stop letting others control your mood and start controlling your destiny. You stop being reactive and start being proactive. That is when anger loses its power over you, and you gain power over your life.